$16,670. That's more than enough to pay for every car I've had since I first got my license, and all the maintenance cost. That's over 2 years worth of rent for me. That's about 16 times more than the cost of the computer that I've made every single one of my videos on. That's enough to buy my entire Steam library 10 times over. $16,678 is a rough estimate of how much money I've spent on cigarettes since I first started 8 years ago at the age of 16. You can add in another few hundred worth of vaping supplies while you're at it. I could have done so much with that money. So much. But instead, I spent it on 41,675 cigarettes. Good lord, I've double-checked the math a dozen times off camera, and it gets harder to believe every single time. For reference, I've only been alive for about 8,500 days. All because, back when I was 16, somebody I had a crush on thought smoking was cool. Smoking's been a part of my adult identity since before I was even an adult. I can't even picture myself driving for more than a few minutes without a cigarette in my fingers. These things are incredibly hard to quit. So, you guys are probably all hating on me right now in your heads. That's understandable. I'm genuinely going to have a tough time looking at myself in the mirror after putting those numbers to paper. The question that I'm sure a lot of you are asking is, why the hell hasn't she quit yet? Well, let's get into that, because it's a much more nuanced psychological battlefield than I think a lot of non-addicts can really wrap their head around. But I'm going to try my best to explain what this whole thing is like to anyone who's lucky enough to have never had to personally deal with addiction. So, I have a very romantic mind. I've named every car I've ever owned. I've got about a dozen private spots in my town that all have their own deep meanings in my head. I even made a whole YouTube channel where I romanticize art. Above all else, though, it feels so natural for me to romanticize smoking. It's taken a million different forms over the years, too. It started out as a rebellious expression of freedom against the tyranny of, I guess, having to go to school every day. Then it turned into this beautiful thing that linked me to the city, a bridge between myself and people that I otherwise never would have met. Then it became this thing that linked me to nature, then it was this darkly poetic expression of my own nihilism. Nowadays, it's something like a symbol of my will to stay youthful as I face more and more responsibilities. That's all just what it is in my head. Back in high school, that rebellion against an unjust system was actually just me trying to get laid. Cigarettes linking me to the city was really just my underage ass going around trying to find people to bum me cigarettes or buy me a pack, and making a few friends along the way. When they were connecting me with nature, it was actually just me hiding in the woods to smoke far away from where my parents could catch me several times a day. The whole darkly poetic expression of nihilism thing was just me being so depressed that I kind of liked the idea of slowly killing myself. And now, cigarettes being a symbol of my will to stay youthful is really just me ducking my responsibilities to go out for a smoke break every hour. If you've seen enough of my channel, you know me well enough that none of this should really surprise you. I'm absolutely the type to treat my real life like it's some long, intricate poem meaningful only to myself. I love that shit. I love the idea of a bunch of autopsy specialists huddled around my body debating over whether or not my life had any meaning, but there I go romanticizing things again. That romanticizing might not be the most dangerous side of an addiction, but it's definitely the most insidious side. There are very real chemical dependencies in my brain that put me in a bad mood if I don't smoke often enough. I get irritable, my muscles get sore, I start coughing, my heart starts to feel weird. Hell, it even makes me lightheaded sometimes. But every now and then, the logical side of my brain musters up the willpower to really try getting off of the cigarettes. I get determined. I tell everyone near me to excuse me because I'll probably be pretty moody for the next couple of days. I find something to keep my mind busy, like Minecraft or something, and I gear up for a few days of just feeling like hell, followed by it getting easier and easier so long as I stay vigilant and don't give in. See, that's all very real, it's measurable, it's genuine chemical reactions that the science absolutely backs up. All of that stuff is absolute. I'm able to see it coming and counter it with determination. But like I said, that's just the most dangerous side of an addiction. The romantic side is the one that sneaks up on you. My morning cigarette, before anyone else wakes up and it's just me and the birds, is the most peaceful moment of every day for me. Sure, I could just sit outside and drink my coffee, without smoking, but it just wouldn't be the same. Eating a really filling meal without smoking a cigarette afterwards would feel like eating a great big greasy cheeseburger without wiping my mouth. It's just wrong. It feels like every instinct I've ever developed is telling me to wipe my mouth and light up a cigarette. It's just the ritual. Even as I was writing this script, trying to figure out what to type next, it just didn't feel right without having that cigarette burning between my fingers. I like being seen rolling down the highway, one foot on the dash, cigarette between my fingers. It makes me feel youthful. See, I'll dedicate myself to not smoking. I'll prepare for all the stress and all the aches, but then I'll just get that image in my head of a driver who doesn't give a fuck, and it's all over. Smoking's been a part of who I am for longer than I've been an adult, and so to just not smoke makes me feel like less of a person. See what I mean? It's insidious. They really do just worm their way into your brain like that, and seeing as they're a drug that doesn't get you messed up, that image manages to be a wholly positive one in my mind. I quit smoking pot and drinking around the age of 20. I was pretty deep into both of them, but neither one was really too hard for me. The image of a sloppy drunk or a lazy stoner aren't anywhere near as appealing as the image of a quiet smoker lost in their own thoughts. You can very often catch me saying something along the lines of, I genuinely just don't want to quit yet. I like cigarettes. That's horrifying. So that's most of what I have to say about the emotional side of cigarettes. I don't want to discredit just how powerful the chemical side of the addiction is, though. I remember back when I was a kid and wasn't old enough to buy cigarettes, I'd steal them from my friends or go around town asking every smoker I saw if I could bum one, or play my guitar downtown until I could get enough tips to buy a pack from my local shady-as-all-hell cigar shop, which had no issue selling to kids like me. When they were closed, I'd drive all around town, hitting every single gas station with the classic, damn it, I forgot my ID line. Making sure, of course, to put an empty pack of cigarettes in my purse or my breast pocket, clearly visible to help complete the illusion. I'd steal shorts from ashtrays whenever I went to a house with a smoker in it. I'd go to the skate park and ask random adults to buy a pack for me. Look, I've seen my channel described as me just TMI posting, but there are some things I've done for nicotine that even I won't share on YouTube, back when it was illegal for me to buy it for myself. And no, before your mind goes there, I don't mean anything sexual. I'll bet anyone who smoked as a kid and had a hard time getting cigarettes knows what I'm talking about, but I'll leave it at that. Doing all of that stuff, it really made me lose a lot of respect for myself at an adolescent time when what little self-respect I did have was very fragile. That's where we get to all the things smoking has done to me. I don't want to say anything as fatalistic as the path that cigarettes put me on, but they've definitely impacted me in some subtle but important ways over the years. They've forced me to retrain my singing voice a couple of times, which has kept me from singing for years at a time. They've completely destroyed my stamina, which was already strained due to an underdeveloped heart. I mean, I have to point a fan at myself just to try on a couple different outfits in the mornings. They've tanked the resale value of every car I've ever owned. Hell, smoking probably had more than a little to do with me and my first serious partner breaking up. Most insidious of all, though, after 8 years of smoking and about 5 years of dealing with my vertigo, I really don't know how the two interact with each other. I'm probably going to be making a video about my vertigo in the coming months, but for now, let's just say that it's a medical condition that none of the doctors I've ever seen have been able to pin down. I'm constantly faint, and the slightest stressor can send me into this haze where I'm shaking like crazy, I'm dizzy, and I feel like I'm going to pass out. Sometimes it happens even when I'm not stressed out about anything. Every now and then it cascades into a full-blown vertigo attack, where my vision is like the GTA 4 drunk camera and it stays that way for hours or days. It's both a psychological and a physiological thing, and so when it happens physiologically, cigarettes are definitely bad for it. I mean, my first ever vertigo attack happened moments after I finished smoking a big old Black and Mild, so for all I know, tobacco is literally the reason why I have this straight-up life-ruining condition. However, other times, when the vertigo is being caused by stress or anxiety, cigarettes help a ton with calming me down and getting my head back on straight. The last time I managed to quit smoking, my vertigo hit a particularly bad phase, and I wound up stuck in the bed for about a month and a half, unable to do so much as sitting up straight at my computer to make a video. I even got a Nintendo Switch because I literally just couldn't leave my bed for any longer than it took to go to the kitchen and make some noodles. After a month and a half of this, I was really depressed and decided to just say fuck it and go back to smoking, which did help at the time. That's the really messed up thing about my vertigo. After all these years, I genuinely have no idea if quitting smoking would make it go away, and I could go back to being a normal person. I don't know if the last 6 years of being borderline invalid are caused by cigarettes or not. I'm sure that there's some correlation, but I just can't tell. And of course, all of the addiction and rose tinting give me a bias towards thinking that I should just keep smoking, out of fear of being stuck in my bed for another month. That's not even bringing up the health concerns that are obviously linked to these things. For all I know, I already have lung cancer. I might already be dying and not even know it, and no amount of nihilism or romanticizing makes that sentence fun to say. But at this point, I'm kind of rambling, aren't I? I guess I don't even want to finish this video, because when I do, I'll have to try quitting again. The point is that none of these things are necessarily life ruiners, but all of them combined lead to me living a life with a lot of qualifiers. I really have to make a lot of special accommodations in order to fit smoking into my life. I have to bend over backwards and completely change the way I go about just about everything, so that I can spend an extra $56 a week and hours of my time sucking down nicotine. We're way beyond image at this point, and we're way beyond taking control of my own life. These cigarettes are controlling my life, and that's all there is to it. I don't even know what it would feel like to be a non-smoker anymore. As I was writing this script, I spent the entire time debating whether or not to include a pledge to quit smoking. That's the obvious good ending. That's the poetic conclusion and the ending that makes people hopeful and glad that they watched the video. I've done things that seemed impossible for the sake of making my videos the way I think they deserve to be made, but I just don't know if I can do it. I remember all through my earlier smoking years, my friends and I would constantly pledge to quit smoking, only to be back on cigarettes a couple of days later. We just weren't ready to quit yet, and so by promising it to ourselves over and over again, all we did was undermine our own self-trust and self-confidence. And I'm so afraid of the possibility that even after writing all of this, I'm still not ready to quit. I'd end up failing myself and failing all of you. There have been so many times that I was suddenly determined to quit, and I'd dramatically throw my half-pack of cigarettes out the window and scream at the top of my lungs that I didn't need them anymore, only to last about another day before buying a pack. I could try going back to vaping, but that's just as bad. The fact that I can vape inside means that I don't even have to think about it, and I wind up getting way more nicotine in my system than I ever did with cigarettes, all without the fun, ritualistic side of smoking. I could try patches or gum, but both of those make me lightheaded and trigger my vertigo. But there is one thing. I've been drinking a lot of soda lately. See, the longest I've ever gone without nicotine was about 7 or 8 months, back when I was around 19. I drank nothing but Dr. Pepper and Arizonas, and what with all the cottonmouth from smoking weed, I eventually had this revelation. Wow, ice cold water feels a lot better going down my throat than cigarette smoke does. That was all it took. Every time I wanted to smoke a cigarette, I'd just drink a glass of water instead. My ADHD-riddled ass was somehow able to turn an awful habit into a really healthy one. I'm not going to promise success. If anything, my enjoyment of disappointing people will just make it harder to quit if I promise you all that I'm going to, but I'll promise one thing. I'm going to try and replace cigarettes with ice water again. So, hey, let's see how it goes. I'll fill you all in after the credits. Wish me luck, guys. This is going to suck. I just hope with my life that I'm finally emotionally mature enough to value a hopeful image of me living healthily more than I value a nihilistic image of me slowly killing myself. But hey, if it turns out that I do, I guess this will be my last cigarette. promised that I would update you all on how my attempt to quit smoking is going, and I'm gonna live by that promise, even though it's not going especially well. I'm just in a really crappy headspace right now to be trying to do something like that, but I'm gonna keep on trying because I figure, even if I'm not mentally capable of quitting yet, it's best to continue to be offensive against my addiction, at the very least, if that makes any sense. So, wish me luck on that. But anyways, I'd like to also verbally thank the patrons, especially those who donate $10 or more monthly on Patreon, such as Ada Avery, Almost Dead Again, Amy Marshall, Anatoly Volnov, Askel, Atheist, Big Time Jim, Calliope Ranis, Charlotte, Chun Gina, Colin Gajic, Cornelius Nelson, Darius Fazier, Demise, Dennis Valshakamar, Dominic Johan, Eduardo Roca, Emma Plays Go, Fluffy Puppy Casey, George Rosenbaum, Holly Schmidt, I Cashern, IJK, Joannis, Joit, Jonah Shee, Jonas, JP, K, Kenneth Enfinger, Knife, Laffy, Legally Graphic, Lil Bunda, Lilith Vampas Hibiscus, Liv, Luz M, Madison Crater, Megan Walker, Mia Mako, Neurofilter, Nicole, Of Lucian, Poof Donut, Praxabettel, Raxvan, Robert Boteng, Shilo, Shane O, Yas the Boss, Zoe, and Zyrobly. I've got a new video that's just entered the editing stage, so hopefully I'll see you guys again soon. Thank you.